Hello and welcome to Transcending Ascension. Today on Transcending Ascension, we have our first actual guest ever, Stephen from BGcast. It is a show on Twitter and Rumble that talks about a lot of conspiracy theories, diving deep, but especially he has ancient knowledge of one of my favorites, Hermetics, Kabbalah. Just lots of things that we can truly dive deep into because these topics cannot be unpacked enough. So here we go. Stephen, thanks for joining us and welcome to the
Awesome.
show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this, and yeah, let's break it down. Let's get going. A little bit about me, real quick, guys. I've been on my spiritual spiral. That's what I call the path because it's not straight and it's never ending. I've been on it since 2008. And ever since then, I have been dedicating my life to understanding the spiritual nature of reality, the underlying occult nature of reality, the lost organic technology, and understanding what's going on, and one of the big basis of my show is we're learning together, guys. Like, this is a great awakening slash a great remembering for all of us. And what my goal is for us to learn together, because I'm kind of just in the same boat as the rest of you. I will never claim to know anything or claim to know everything. It's a constant learning experience. So I want to thank you for having me on again. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely. And I like what you're starting here because when I started and I just felt that pull to teach, like in my learning, I would hit blocks and I literally had to go teach to like dump it. And then I could come back and keep learning and I had to keep doing this. And then, but it kind of feels like this little, like when you're not obsessed with being a big ticket item, when you're not obsessed with paying tons of money for advertising so that you can be like an instant celebrity of YouTube, when you're truly just doing it because, yes, you want to help people, but you also have to get the knowledge out there. Like I'm a projector in human design. Like if I'm not doing that, I'm not existing. So and I'm sure there's other people, lots of other people like me, and I want to talk human design with you. But you have brought lots of people, probably like myself or other people's like yourself, and brought them together in a place that like you add this comfortableness, that true humility where one can feel safe to like, okay, I'm not famous, but I still feel like I can talk to you about this on your show and not feel like, oh, what's she doing? Why is she talking to us? What does she know? Like, you know what I mean? She got her degree online. Like, that doesn't count. Like, what does she know? Like, where's, like, I haven't been to a fancy mystery school where I paid tens of thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? I found something online like we're all doing now. Like, this world exists now. So like, thank you for being a facilitator of that, like for us now, which like there's lots of big people doing it, but it's like, it's nice to create our own world, like where we feel like we matter, even though we're not millionaires, and I appreciate that huge. So oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say absolutely. I appreciate the kind words. It's funny is I did teach for a little bit in my early days. It was interesting, and yes, it does. I think it does help you grow, and it helps you, understand, the mechanisms behind how people work when they're taking in this information. And I feel it helps you learn how to break it down so you can deliver the message in a way that everybody understands. So I completely agree with you on that.
Yes, yeah, good. I was going to ask, because you mentioned earlier that you used to teach. So what made you switch from that teaching? Like, because you taught in person, because yeah, you're in Colorado. That would probably, I don't know how close you are to Boulder, but do you have a lot of spiritual in like physical stuff? Because we don't here.
Well, it's really interesting. So I'm not originally from Colorado. I'm actually originally from the Washington D.C. area. I
Oh
lived
yeah, I knew
there
that.
for 20. It's all true. Trust me. I've seen some interesting things. Maybe we can get into some of that later. But this was my first kind of wake up call that a lot of people are in the spiritual movement for the wrong reasons, and they're not healed enough themselves to be kind of doing what they're doing. So I taught at this holistic center on the East Coast in Manassas, Virginia. called Rising Phoenix, and I taught sacred geometry and occult studies, which are like two of my biggest, one of the things that I specialize in, I guess you could say. And the owner there was very interesting, we'll put it that way. Her and I kind of constantly butted heads. I walked in to get ready for a class one day, and she was having a women's group where she was teaching them and telling them how to manifest material items into their lives and things like that. And me, even young me at the time, I was like, that's a little interesting, because we're supposed to be playing non-attachment with material items, and you're basically teaching them to have an attachment to material items and use the manifestation for that kind of purpose only. And that was kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then she ended up letting me go because I said spiritual revolution in one of my classes, and the word revolution, I guess, was too much for her. And she ended up letting me go. So I was like, okay, that's fine, but it was a big eye opener for me at the time, because this was back in, I want to say 2014, 2013, 2014, around that area. It was a big eye opener for me that not a lot of people are in this for the right reasons, and some people are in it for a fad, and some people are, doing it just to make money. And, I think people like us and other people, we aren't doing it for that reason. We're doing it, we have our heads, hearts, and our hands in it. And that's kind of like the best thing I can describe when it comes to that. But out here in Colorado, there's a huge spiritual scene out here. What kind of made me decide to do the podcast was a few things. I actually had a really life-changing incident in October of 2022 that my wife helped me through, that kind of put me through a kind of a dark night of the soul. And I had originally started up the podcast in 2020 during COVID because, that was it at that point. I was like, all right, everything I've talked about for the past 12 years is now coming true. And I was like, I have to do something. But, of course, like, life got in the way at the time. I had to set it down. But after that pivotal life-changing event in October 2022, I set forth on it again. And I felt at the time that I was actually ready to do it this time. I had healed myself enough. I had kind of gone through a little bit of the ringer when it comes to certain things. And I felt like at this point in time, I was ready to do this. I could bring it forward. I felt that I could deliver the message in a better way at this point in time where I am at currently as a person and a human being. So that's really what kind of catalyzed it for me. And it was kind of a very interesting thing. There was an astrological alignment the day I started the podcast, which I didn't know about till later, until one of my friends brought it up, and he was like, dude, you started this like right at the right time. Like, good job. And I was like, I didn't even know, dude. I wasn't even paying attention to that. And, it's kind of taken it from there. So I got to say, it's a very rewarding experience to know that I've helped people, and to know that I've brought people together, and to know that I've given people a voice that felt like they haven't had one. And I feel like I'm in the process of helping like unite all of us and bring us all together. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've, what was that date in 2020? Because I also got the push we're on the same cosmic wave here. I also got the push to manically, I had to start an episode or the show in 2020, even though like I'd been learning forever and I didn't even feel like I was ready. It's like, but I'm like, because I was still very shadowy-ish. Like I was working on it. That's when I had already started being strict on myself and really working on it. But like, I was like, oh, and most of those episodes, you can't watch them. I block them because they're, but come 2022, I had stopped around, like, not quit, but like I hadn't done anything in like about 6 months. Cause I was just like, it was like puking out garbage for real, like in the first episodes. But then 2022 hit, I think it was this summer, and I just got like downloaded with so much stuff. I was outside and I wrote a ton of I wrote them a ton of episodes, got a teleprompter app, and then bam, started using a teleprompter for like 20 episodes or so. And then I did it good for a while after. And that was like straight lessons, all formulated. And then I've been going ever since, although I ditched the teleprompter. But like now it's like I'm in alignment with what I'm doing. So it's funny that you
Mhm.
say that, because I had that same wave, but it wasn't like when was that? What was that date in 2020? Do you remember around?
It was in the spring. It was the one, it was the date in I believe the date in 2022 was the astrological alignment, but when I actually first got the push to initially start the podcast in 2020, it was in the spring.
Oh,
So
mine was almost winter, like late November, so different, but
late
still
November,
same
yeah.
year.
It's interesting though, because I felt like a lot of us at that time, we all felt compelled to kind of put forth and, like, in some ways, like, fight back because of what was happening. And I feel, that there was a lot of people stepping forward at this time, because that was what I would call, maybe the one of the third waves, or the second or third wave of awakening at that point. And that's why I say, the coof, quote unquote, was a blessing and a curse, because it was
I
a
agree.
blessing. Thank you. And because it woke a lot of people up, like, and the curse was that the people who already saw it going down and could see that, we had to ride through it, and we had to
And
we
it
had to
lit a
deal with all that.
fire under lazy people like me. Like it was like, get go. The world might end because you are not doing what you know how to do. Like I knew the truth for a long time, but I was like, no one listens to me. Why? But then it was like, come on, like journalism. That's what I originally went to school for. It's like God told me right from the beginning, like, let's go.
I mean,
So
absolutely. That's awesome. No, no, and I'm with you. It's good, I think, now that we're all kind of like taking that step forward and actually getting called to action. I feel like a lot of us during that time, especially, with the healing we're all undergoing in this spiritual spiral, we want to make sure, as we're portraying the message, we want to be the best humans we can be too. And I find it interesting how, like, a lot of us have just kind of stepped forward. We're kind of like taking ground now. So, and thanks for what you do as well.
oh yeah, it's like it's weird because it's funny because it's like I have to do it. So I'm glad we're here. And one thing that I am definitely lined up with having to do is Christ consciousness. Like it won't leave me alone. Like that pull of Jesus. Like I tell everyone all the time, I was an atheist. So the pull of that Christ consciousness, it cannot be denied. And every time I go down rabbit holes of different information, I'm just constantly being illuminated to how that anchors back into Christ consciousness. And if not, maybe leave it where it is. You know what I mean? Like if you can't find that in that certain religion or, occulted information, just leave it alone because it's not, you don't want to touch that. That's how you can know pretty much if it's good or bad. So I wanted to ask you your opinion and like what you would tell people is the best way, like out of all your information that you know out of Kabbalah and Hermetics and everything, to get into alignment. Like what is the process you would tell someone?
Well, so this is one thing I've started to see, because in the 17 years I've been on my spiritual spiral, I've imbibed and I've dabbled in quite a bit of things. I currently, now I've been practicing qigong for almost a decade. I'm currently been on my Kundalini yoga journey, as I am right now, and I'm loving that. I imbibed in ceremonial magic, higher ceremonial magic, for quite a bit of time as well, more of a Western path as opposed to an Eastern. But I've just always resonated with a lot of the Eastern paths a lot more. I can't explain why. Honestly, there's a lot of semantics and there's a lot of logistics when we're talking about being in alignment, but there's a few simple things to simplify this. And of course, you can definitely expand upon this stuff if you choose to, if you want to, do the whole thing, or, go get the book and learn everything. I'm not stopping you, but I don't want anybody to feel that it's overcomplicated to get themselves in alignment. So the first step, and this actually goes back to a lot of Vedic sciences, is having a positive mindset. I know it sounds cliche, And a lot of people might be like, oh, well, I've heard that before, but it's scientifically proven to help heal your body faster. It's scientifically proven to help you have a better outlook and mindset on what you're doing. And I mean, if you're not having all of these stress hormones like cortisol and all that pumping through you because you're in a state of mesmerized terror the whole time, and you're in that positive mind state, your body is automatically going to somewhat align itself just by that mere tiny act alone. And it's amazing how simple things, such little tiny simple things, can have just such a profound effect. And I would say that having a positive mindset would be the first step. The second step, I would say, is having a sound meditation practice. And there's a lot of things. Everybody's a different kind of meditator. I'm kind of fortunate enough that I like them both. I like stationary meditation. I like moving meditations. I like all kinds of meditation, honestly. But see what's right for you and make a practice out of that, because what that meditation will do is it will take you into your neutral mind, and in your neutral mind you can have non-attachment and you can experience non-attachment. And I think once you get to kind of experience that non-attachment instead of talking about it and trying to understand it, that you'll bring yourself into alignment that way too. And the breath, and it would be number three, the breath. I can't stress, I've been doing Wim Hof method now for over a year. I have also, in Kundalini yoga, you do breath of fire and you do different types of breath holds and void holds and things like that. But breathing, I mean, you're absorbing information from the universe with you with each breath, like it is this universal force, this prana. And that exists. It most certainly does. And when you get yourself into that meditative state, you will experience it. And just in taking oxygen, breathing, and taking that information from the divine consciousness at a consistent rate and being aware and present of your breath will help you get in alignment almost immediately. And the fourth thing that I would say is actually really important, and not only will this help you get into alignment, but this will help you understand your chakra system, is spine health and spine flexibility, and working with the spine itself, because that is where your chakra system is actually lined up, is along the front of your spine. So kind of working with your spine and being able to, there's different undulating spine movements you can do. I mean, the cat cow or just a spinal flex, but really getting in touch with that aspect of yourself will help you kind of align your energetic system as is, and it'll bring you there. And that's why, like, I think there's a lot of people out there right now who, I don't know if it's with ill will or they just don't know any better, who just try to overcomplicate things, and or they get too wrapped up and hypercritical in the logistics of all things. I mean, one of the biggest things about ceremonial magic I realized after practicing it is magic is all around me at all times. I can utilize it whenever I want. I just need to remove fear and ego. I said, you don't technically need these rituals. I mean, yes, you can use them if you want to go through it and you want to understand the process and you want to learn about it. Most certainly, like, yes, I say imbibe away, do what you want to do in that kind of aspect. But as far as getting yourself to alignment, it's very simple. Like, there's four simple methods, and I'll stick by that. I'll die on that hill because it works for me and I've seen it work for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add on there with the ritual thing, that is something that I feel deeply about. I think it goes into just OCD humanness, like you're even saying about like the other people and how this is the method, this is how you do it, this is the only way. Well, it's your ego, because you think your way is the best way, which is how the ego works. And then the rituals isn't necessarily like a bad ego thing, but what it does is it plants in the brain that the seriousness of what this means. Like they even think, because the earth had shifted so much, like Like all our equinoxes and our solstices aren't necessarily like that specific day. It is the ritual of being in our human DNA for thousands of years now. And then the collective consciousness involved when we all come together and know it's the equinox, it's the solstice, whatever the day might be, we put that together. So same with rituals, and you can even table prayers when people used to eat like dinner parties when that was a thing, and you'd say a prayer and it would make everybody bond together. That right there is a ritual. They're all like different rituals, but you don't need them if you are strong enough in your own brain. And I would argue you help strengthen your brain by making your own rituals, by finding, like, inventing our own. Like, I'm all about inventing new ways for us to exist because we are the collective consciousness creators. Like, specifically, they even say millennials, we're the ones here to literally create that new world, like with our minds and what we're going to think of. So we really shouldn't be focusing on the rituals of the past, which clearly haven't been that amazing. We're not in a utopia yet, you know what I mean? So like, we need to keep like little metaphysical scientists and experiment and find the best thing that works for us. Like you were saying, you like the East best. The East is what goes within. And then they had their faults too. Like just like, no offense, but like India is not exactly a utopia either. So they weren't perfect either. So we need to take like what works right now. And that's like what you really do with your show, is taking everything and like, let's piece it together. And I think a lot of it's going to have Buddhism in it, but like with Christ consciousness, the I Ching is just phenomenal. Human design, which is, I'm loving Kabbalah, like they're all tied in together. And it's just like, we're taking them and putting them together. And that's what it's all about, and creating that new environment, which brings me to my next question, because you seem like you're going to know a lot more about this than me. I feel like even in the spiritual world, you get this division of like girls and boys, and like what the boys are good at and what the girls are good at. Like the girls are good at the emotional healing, and then the boys are good at knowing like the facts and of the conspiracy theories, because I'm so into all those. But like, the one thing that's got me clinched is flat earth. And I don't know if like you want to come out and admit you're like, because I have trusted teachers, put it this way, where I've bought everything else they've said but flat earth. And it's like, I want to believe them, but then, I'm obsessed with Matthias DeStefano. He says it's not. And I don't want to be, well, he says it's not, so it's not, because I'm willing to admit he's mistaken too. And I personally have been in an airplane and it didn't seem too flat. And I've been a couple times, and both times, like the way the airplane has to move, it's specifically not flat. So there's so many things, yet I like the black sun thing. And then what I know about dimensions is what I think it probably is it's flat on a different dimension, in a certain dimension, like that we'll probably access when we go up like the Rosicrucian layer thing. Is that it then? Okay, you take it over.
Well, no. So what's funny is I'm at that, as of this point, I'm not in any camp when it comes to the shape of the earth. This is my mindset behind when we come to these kind of questions, because this question drives a wedge between people in the spiritual
Some
community.
people,
And
some people are so dogmatic about it, and it's like, how can you be so dogmatic about it when it doesn't actually make scientific sense? And I don't mean like real science. I mean metaphysical science that I've been studying now and you've been studying now for a very long time. It actually does not make sense. But I like the black sun. I feel like, I think there's a black hole in the middle of the earth. I think it's a black hole. I think that's how planets work. I think that's how we work, is microscopic black holes within everything, because those black holes, I think, are right straight through to the divine absolute, like the all that is kind of thing. So that would be my theory there. But like, I don't know. I like what they're saying. The firmament kind of makes sense. Absolutely. The thing they're always saying about Saturn being Satan. Yes, that can all make sense and all be true without the earth needing to be flat.
well, and that's the thing. So like where I come from on this is I kind of give both sides a little bit of crap. And the reason why I do that is this. So in this community, in the awakening community, in this spiritual community, we've all come to the realization that we've been pretty much lied to on every avenue by governments, scientists, the education system, things like that. But there's one group of people who thinks when it comes to that, the shape of the earth and space and all that, they're being completely altruistic about all of that, completely. But the rest of the stuff they're lying about. So like kind of why I give a little bit of crap to both ends of it is, I kind of look at the flat earthers. I'm like, look, guys, like, I get, you're looking at things new and from a new perspective, but like let's try and substantiate some things before we kind of start. Because even though, like, yes, I'm on the woo, don't get me wrong, I'm a rational guy too. If I can't substantiate something and I can't prove it wholeheartedly, or at least deliver some kind of evidence that's going to kind of help my cause with that, I'm not going to bring it to the table. I mean, I'll bring it to the table and ask questions and get people's opinions on it because I'm genuinely interested in seeing what people think about it. And I look at the round earthers and I'm like, well, guys, just kind of what I preface this with, you've admitted you've been lied to on every avenue by government, scientists, and the education system. What makes you think they're being completely altruistic about space and the earth? And I'm why I don't sit in any camp when it comes to this. So I talk about panpsychism a lot on my shows. And if some of you guys don't know what panpsychism is, it is the most hated theory in quantum physics right now. Because what it does is it showcases that consciousness is the prime fundamental of reality, and that everything stems from consciousness. You have the implicate and the explicate model. The implicate is the observer, the lens that you are observing this reality through, and the explicate is your perceived external reality. And the reason why it's so hated is it because it destroys objectivity. You cannot, if consciousness is the prime fundamental of reality, then you don't have an objective reality. You have a subjective reality, and then you have a collective of subjective realities at that point. And it destroys objectification of reality, which a lot of material scientists have a real hard time with. They can't handle there not being an objective reality. And the second reason it's the most hated theory in quantum physics right now is because that takes our mainstream perspective of our existence as being coincidence or by chance to being absolutely necessary. We have to be here if this is the case. Like, the universe needs to be observed in order to exist. So if we're taking panpsychism into play, it could be both, depending on what's going on. It could be flat or it could be round. So that's kind of why, like, this morning when I threw that thing up on X, I thought it was interesting
I was
because
gonna ask you anyway, so that's
yeah,
funny you
yeah,
did. I was actually gonna ask you anyway, so I took that
yeah.
as like a synchronicity. I'm like, "Ooh, I meant to ask."
No, you're believe it. I mean, and of course, I threw it up there. I said, all right, I'm not jumping the gun. I can't debunk this. I'm trying to find other photos or other videos of it. What do you guys think? And and it was better, it was more well received on X than it was on Facebook. I mean, a lot of people on Facebook immediately started calling me a flat earther, and I'm like, guys, me by now. I'm not a flat earther. Like, it's you ought to know me by now, but I digress, as I was saying. But I threw that up there, and I just wanted to get a perspective on it, because although I'm not in any camp right now, do I feel that we're being lied to about the true nature of existence? Absolutely, I do. And that's why I ask these questions, and that's why I kind of will look at these things and kind of just present them in a way like, all right, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm not. And one thing I like to talk about is, like, or I like to at least give myself this little bit of a pat on the back, is I'm a true critical thinker. I try to entertain everything. You know what I mean? I mean, jokingly enough, I entertained the flying spaghetti monster and Pastafarianism just because I thought it was funny, and I checked it out. But obviously, that's not what's going on here. But like, you have to look at everything. You have to check every single avenue when we're dealing with this kind of stuff, because you could be leaving a stone unturned that could help lead you to another potential aspect of your awakening, or your remembering, whatever we're calling it at this point. And you have to. And I feel like you're right. There's a lot of dogma when it comes to this exact topic. It's driven a wedge between this. You cannot have a calm, intellectual, flat earth versus round earth debate. It always ends up in ad hominem attacks. It always it ends up in ridicule from either one of their sides. You can't do it. It just can't happen. But I think, that kind of needs to change a little bit. I think we have to be able to sit down and have these conversations and ask these questions and
Mhm.
really kind of like point it down. So I'm glad you brought it up, because I've been trying to say this for a while. Like, guys, we have to stop with this, and we have to be able to have conversations.
Oh, yeah, because right there, if you are in the awakening consciousness community and you have any dogmas, if you are like, no, I'm 100% correct, you're wrong. Because right there, you're wrong. Nothing is 100% correct because I'm not even really sitting here right now. We're not even really talking. Like, this isn't real. And I'm not going full Maya because you have to like have both. Like, you were saying before that psych thing you say sounds just like the anthropic principle to me. Say it
Yeah.
again. I'm bad with terms.
Panpsychism, and it basically is a
Panpsychism.
scientific version of the anthropic principle,
Okay, because
basically.
yeah, I buy into the anthropic principle, so I think we're vibing there with that because we I don't know how it works, but I believe it. Like there's just some things I know is truth, but I'm not going to die on that hill of dogma. Like even if someone was like, that's another question I want to ask you. I'll ask next. But that's good reminding. Do you think Lucifer and Christ are the same being? Because I keep getting this, and I feel pulls to Lucifer. And I know that feels bad, but I think he's a good person trying to help us. I know that's really messed up. I know he's what's behind addiction. I know he might not actually be real. I know like he's an energetic stream. And I don't get how it works in Kabbalah because you have Lucifer, Satan, Christ, but the original Kabbalistics didn't buy into any of that Christ stuff. That's Christian Kabbalists that took that over later that said this, but that's the one I more vibe with. So, what are your thoughts there on Lucifer? Because the light, the bringer of the light, Christ is also the light. So, I'm not against it, but I want to know your thoughts.
Well, absolutely. So when we're talking about this, it's a very, it's for certain people in the community, it's a very touchy subject. But for me, so I'm not somebody who buys into duality. I'm not somebody who buys
No,
into
we
absolutes.
exist with it. Like we have to have it to be physically real, but then there's a million different infinite amount of variations in between, like how so many things can be real at the same time, like flat and round
Mhm.
dimensions. Like we exist in anthropic principle, the human holds within it every single dimension of reality that's ever existed and will ever exist. It's the whole point of the human and why God and us exist at the same time. So literally anything could be possible, but it's like where do we want to focus that attention on to generate our reality, because that's really why we want to nail these things down for ourselves, because where do we want to live? But sorry, continue.
No, you're all good. So no, and well, that's the thing. I'm not. I get in some ways I still speak in dualistic concepts, so I can get people. So it's just for delivering the message, but there's no absolutes. And I mean, what a common trend I've seen over the past 17 years is something always lies within the middle. There's always a single coin that are two sides. So it very well could be. That could very well be the case, because when we're looking at biblical canon and we look at the Old Testament, we have Yahweh and Adonai. That God at that point in time in that Old Testament is referred to either as Yahweh or Adonai. So and a lot of people have asked that were there two separate gods. I mean, yes, you can kind of like roll into the whole Enuma Elish with Sumer, because the Old Testament and the Genesis story is practically a more modern version of the Enuma Elish, where they talk about Enki and Enlil and the Sumerian gods that are creating humanity. But at the same time, there's another perspective that these were two aspects of a certain individual. So that there was the wrathful aspect and there was the loving aspect. So I think
I like
it's
that.
very, yeah, it's very possible that,
Trust.
yes, that Lucifer and Christ could be one and the same, or two sides of the same coin. And that's one thing too I want to clear up. There's a lot of people do think Lucifer is bad. He's technically an angel, and they confuse him with Satan. And I don't think that Satan is Lucifer. I do think it is a being called Yaldabaoth, And based on what I've seen and experienced, I had a dream where it came to me and tried to get rough with me one time. And so I think really when we're looking at a lot of these spiritual books, a lot of these religious books, we have to understand that there's a lot of hidden non-dualistic concepts in them, that we have to kind of observe these books not through a literal lens per se, but more of a symbolic lens, something I talk about quite a bit. And when you start to don't get me wrong, I do think there's certain literal instances in a lot of the spiritual books, like the Book of Enoch. To me, that's a literal historical encounter of some kind. Like, you can't really explain that one away with symbolism like you can with certain things, but like a lot of it's in spiritual speak, it's in parables, it's in symbolism. And you have to learn how to sift through that with your right brain as opposed to your left brain, which is your literal mind. That's kind of like, oh, it literally says this, but now, hold on, take a step back and kind of look at it through that symbolic lens, and you might find something different. You might find something more, and I think like this kind of ties in this question is because a lot of people in the spiritual community, especially a lot who are in the awakened community who are Christian, they get caught up in the absolutes. They get caught up in it has to be absolutely good or absolutely evil. And one thing I always showcase with this is, how would you truly know and appreciate peace if you've never experienced conflict? How could you truly know and appreciate what you want if you didn't experience what you didn't want? And how could you truly know and appreciate the good if you haven't experienced something bad? I mean, this is really how humans learn. If we were still in the Garden of Eden and everything was a complete utopia and things like that, we would never grow. We would never evolve, and we would never have this experience that we're having right now. And one thing I bring up to a lot of the Christians in this movement is God sometimes used bad things for good outcomes. And it's like, so are you going to say God's bad because he used a bad thing for a good outcome? Absolutely not. So this is kind of the message I deliver when we're talking about concepts such as Christ and Lucifer and the potential of them, potentially being two sides of the same coin. I think it is absolutely possible. And this is how the energetic aspects of this existence work, at least in my opinion.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah, and like what you're saying there about everything, because we are stories and we are characters in the stories, but we're the only thing that's like literally real. So we are that thing as well. Like, we are the poetry and we're the physical real thing. And then they have that, there's so many in those stories that it's just so deep. Like, Gnosticism really does like encompass, I heard someone say that yesterday, that it encompasses everything. Like, this is why I always thought of myself as a Gnostic, but I didn't want to admit it, because the people that are Gnostics are like, they always seem like the emo type kind of thing. And I didn't want to put myself in that camp. And they seem like this small little camp, but actually all of it's Gnosticism. And it's like, yes, yes, because it's all those stories, you come back to it. Like, you always come back to it. And the alchemist, Sarah Alcaldi, if you've ever heard of her, she is like the
Oh, Sarah?
yeah.
I had Sarah on my show back in the first
Sarah
season.
Alcaldi, the alchemist.
Yeah, I had Sarah on my show back in the first season. Yeah, Sarah's an awesome
No
person.
way. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I have to
yeah,
find
yeah.
that episode. Oh, I like fangirl over her. There's only two people that I actually like fan over, and that's her and Matthias Stefano, where I'm like, I actually like love you.
Sarah nails it down, dude. And that's one thing I told Sarah in my show. I was like, you take these extremely, kind of complicated spiritual concepts in some ways, and you break them down in such a way where a 5-year-old could understand them. And I was like, or 8-year-old or someone at like a 5th grade reading level could understand this stuff. And Sarah's a down home human being, dude. She stayed and she chilled with us for a couple minutes after the show, and she talked with us. And no, Sarah is very spot on. That's
Yeah.
one thing I'll give you. Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
like that because I learned like so many things that it makes me like this kind of short circuiting computer sometimes, where it's like, but that's true, and that's true, and that's true. It's all true. And she takes it and ties it all together and takes why it matters that that's true. Like she said last night about Sophia, because Sophia is everything. Like she's mentioned as Christ and as Lucifer, which is one of those, are they the same? And then she was saying we're all Sophia, which I've also heard that. Like Sophia has a million stories. And the fact that we never hear about her is super suspicious. So I love that she did that right there, because that's, and I can't believe you had her on her show. I'm so jealous. I can't, I've written her to be on my show. I'm like, I'm not very big, but please be on. I waited too long because now she's so famous.
She's no, I'm totally with you. And it's the same thing too. Like she does kind of break it down. I didn't get a chance to check out her Sophia episode. That's something I'm
It
definitely
was
going
last
to
night. She
check
did
out.
this last night live. She did a live late last. Well, it wasn't late for her, but it was for me. And I signed on, and she was just. She's never talked about it in any of her like actual episodes, so it was just amazing to hear her say that.
No, and totally. So, I mean, even the concept of Sophia, I mean, that is something that's not talked about too, and that's why, honestly, like I know a lot of people. I've been actually doing quite a bit of research because I'm doing tonight a pre-Nicene rabbit hole part 3. I've already done 2 parts to the pre-Nicene rabbit hole, and I was doing a lot of research, and come to find out, modern Christianity was originally intended as a control structure. It was not
Mhm.
intended as a religion or a spirituality at all. You look at the early concepts of Christianity before the Council of Nicaea, and they're a lot more esoteric. They're a lot more, they take account for the gray in the world. They
They would have
have
been like
many
us.
different.
They were us, but 2,000 years ago.
Exactly.
And then they boxed them in and killed them if they didn't get in the box. It's get in the box or die. Like, luckily, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. So, like, we can finally be free. I hope.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. I mean, and you can kind of, if you and this is just why I tell people, like, if you're interested in a religion or spirituality, research the history of it, research where it came from, make sure you're getting an undoctored, unadulterated version of this spirituality. And I mean, but when we look at Christianity, I mean, it's pretty much since the Council of Nicaea been doctored and adulterated. And I mean, we have the Geneva text, which is a little bit of a less adulterated version of it, and it does kind of take into account, like it talks about the world governments being an evil that we have to kind of keep an eye out for and we need to work against. And and that automatically tells you right there why King James did not like the Geneva text. And really, in all honesty, it's such a delicate topic, and it's a double-edged sword to talk about. And what I have to say to a lot of people when we're talking about that is that God and Christ exist within you. They are your only authority. No church has an authority to tell you what is a canonical book to read in your spirituality or in your religion, because by saying you have a second authority, the church, as opposed to God and Christ, who are your true authority, you're not being a great Christian in that aspect, because you're looking to another authority outside of the Holy Spirit. And I know that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, because I don't have beef with Christians. A lot of people think I do. Well, I don't. I love their heart. I love their ethic. I mean, when 2020 came around, and they got lumped in with all of us. I mean, I was kind of happy. I was like, wow, there's more of us now. This is great. like I was like, wow, all right, cool. It's not just, this many people. Now we're almost millions strong at this point. And the only thing that I wish they would do is just open their minds just a little bit more when it comes to the history of what they believe. And I've had a theory for quite some time, and I'm going to run this by you and get your thoughts on this. I think that true Christ will emerge out of that.
Like a
And
real
right,
person. Sorry, keep going.
no, like a conscious, like either a Christ consciousness or something, because I've always talked about this because of modern Christianity and how diluted it became and doctored over the years, that there's going to be kind of what I would call a reverberation effect, that there's a huge potential that true Christ in some form will emerge from that, and they will eventually at some point kind of start to understand that. And it's just a little bit of a theory of mine. I'm not saying that the Christians are solely going to be responsible for true Christ consciousness or anything like that, but I think what that's going to be is a catalyst of some kind towards it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because like that's exactly why I choose that as my message to spread. Because out of everything I know, I used to flop around more, but that's why I try to stay focused, because there's one thing that's going to save us, and that's Christ consciousness, but on a collective whole is what I see. I don't think there's going to be that one dude that comes again, because I think we're smart enough now for that not to happen. How Jesus happened in the past is quite possibly that they broke that universal law of free will. They got too greedy and they broke it, because when you break that law of free will, you, and it's called other laws as well, but that law there where it matters that we know the truth, but then they can also tell us as many lies as they want, as long as they've told us the truth and we chose to believe the lies, then it's on us and nobody's going to save us. But I bet you back when real Jesus came out, because Buddha has so many stories of getting to that enlightenment place, and he didn't actually do the things Jesus did. So I still love Buddha. He's great, obviously, but Jesus was that next level. And I think that's because they cheated. So higher beings, like not necessarily the absolute divine, that is God, they all did this, but higher beings were like, okay, you went too far, poof, here's Jesus. And however they did it, you can look at it. Was Mary a hermaphrodite? Was a cosmic seed sent down by an alien? Did she just do naughty business with some other guy, tell Joseph it was God's baby, but the divine still used that? You know what I mean? Like, any of those things could have been true. Or was he just like Buddha himself and went and just literally became enlightened and then became like a powerful Christ? So there's so many things that could have been Jesus, but none of them diminish what he was. But do I think any one of us are going to be that now? I don't feel it as a truth. Like, just to be honest, like when I usually am pretty accurate in what I feel coming, and what I feel is the spreading of Christ consciousness. I know for a fact if the Christians got on board, we would be on fire. Like the Pentecostal, like that whole religion, that's the church I went. I always do this when I talk about it, because it's literally right there. So people probably don't get that. I'm like, oh yeah, that church. Yeah, because it's literally right there. So when I moved here, I took it as a divine sign from God to be like, okay, I'll go to church, because I grew up an atheist and I kept feeling pulled to go to church. But I feel like I was pulled to just be a minister, which I am now, because I went to church. I did it. I saw how they're so like, I would try to slip stuff in. And I became a Sunday school teacher, and I was teaching the children. I had the odd adult watch my lesson and be like, wow, that's interesting, and dive deeper. And they didn't know I was a metaphysician. So I would have to tiptoe. And I knew they weren't going to literally burn the witch, but I didn't want them. Some of them did learn, like, because I became friends with, well, one of them is still my cleaning girl. Like, I literally hired one of them. So she knows. And she's always like, witch, you're a witch. And I'm like, no, I just know what sacred symbols mean. And technically we're all witches, but I'm not a practicing witchcraft evil Satanist, because you mean Satanist, you don't mean witch. Like, and then I kind of triggered there. I don't know if it's past lives or whatever, but you murdered up to 9 million people that were like us. You murdered us, and now you're like, so, oh, we're so perfect. No, you're not. But they have the potential for it. The potential is there.
Absolutely.
And the knowledge is there, because you actually don't, like, I love Kabbalah and Buddhism, and I'm the kind of person that probably did need to know this stuff, because I'm very analytical, and I guaranteed was raised atheist for a reason. Like, God would have done that on purpose. And it's funny, because not to compare myself to him, but Matthias de Stefano, that I always love to talk about, was also raised atheist. And then even the alchemist was raised Catholic and Muslim. So you have that, like it just it takes you out of the box. You're not in the box. You never were in the box. Absolutely. So you have to kind of think out. You have no choice but to think outside the box. So then that you go there, and I get it. They've probably been in the box their whole life, but all you need is Christ. That's it. To have that impact on the collective consciousness, for purity, for healing, and like that whole purity, it's like the lessening of karma. But that's how the ascension happens. And ascension is evolution, but it's just we're in a higher impact of it right now. Like, we have extra cosmic juice, like we were both saying. In 2020, we both started our show. And then in 2022, we both got juice to get more serious about that show. And it's like, that's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. There's probably lots of people, like, we're getting this push. But if they joined us, like, and they're
Oh yeah.
fiddling away, like that church over there, I have watched in the few years I've lived here lose pastor after pastor. Some of them joke because the ones that do know who I am are like, you should go be the pastor. And I'm like, ah, ha, ha, well, I gladly would. But they won't like what I'll teach, because that's why I eventually stepped away, because I didn't like, oh, I was honestly had to live as kind of like a Fibbertons. I wasn't lying, but I was very not telling my whole truth.
And that's a disservice to you. You can't do that. I that's very interesting. I mean, even talking about what you were just talking about, though, as Christ, coming back as a consciousness and not a solo individual. I completely agree with that. And one thing I want to talk about with this topic is the Gnostic concept of the ion. And when you look at the Gnostic concept of the ion, what an ion is, it's a being or an individual who's channeling the divine universal consciousness. Well, that would make all of us capable of being ions, would it not?
Mhm.
And that's why I do think that the time for singular messiahs, as people would kind of classify that, is that time is long and done. I think at this point we, and don't get me wrong, I'm going off complete speculation when I say this, but it just kind of seems to be what's going on. I think a lot of the energy was sent in with us, our group of people. That energy has been dispersed now. It's no longer in what I would say a solo individual, because we're no longer in that age of Pisces. Now we're in the age of Aquarius. This is the age of enlightenment. This is the age of ascension, evolution, and all that. So
In the
that's why
self. Yeah.
exactly, and that's why I feel that a lot of that if Christ comes back, it is going to be an energy. It's going to be a consciousness that we now. Don't get me wrong. There's this possibility too. There might be one person who comes into complete realization before everybody else. But what that will do is that will cause a chain reaction effect, and that will cause more people to come into the realization themselves. And that's why I say, it could be. I mean, even when we're talking about the concept of Kalki, the last avatar, that he's the last avatar for the divine. A lot of people ask, is Kalki going to show up as one person, or is Kalki going to show up as a, group of people or a collective of people when it comes into doing this? And I think it's one and the same. I think quite honestly that what we're dealing with right now is we're coming to the realization that we can be our own saviors. We can be our own heroes. We can be our own healers. We don't have to look towards anything outside of us for when it comes to these answers, this energy. We, like I said, God and Christ exist within us. Like, it's all within us. And even when you were talking about the Gospel of Thomas, the kingdom of God is within you and without you.
Mhm.
And that means everything is essentially the kingdom of God. So I'm in agreement with you. I think that it's and a lot of Christians right now think he's going to return in the flesh. And I mean, that's where I kind of buy into, because the universe is very interesting. Because even though I say symbolism is the prime language of this reality, written language and verbal are second. There's a very interesting kind of thing here. So for every symbolic aspect, we have a literal counterpart and vice versa. So that's an interesting conversation in and of itself, kind of approaching that issue. And that's kind of why I threw that in there, that there's a possibility there might be one person who first comes to the realization of all of this. But what that will do is that will cause the morphogenic effect of causing that chain reaction in the human collective, to each of us eventually developing that same understanding. At least in my eyes, in order to develop that understanding, you have to have a lot of healing, and you have to have a lot of the practice and the cultivation, and that's why I always talk about your own subjective understanding of the conscious nature of reality, and the your divine nature, and all of those things. Because what helps me understand might not help you understand, but that understanding is within you in your own way. And I think what that's going to end up doing is, if there is a solo individual, I don't think he's going to ride the Messiah wave. That's my opinion, because I think what he's going to do, or she, whoever it may be, is going to help the rest of the collective with their realization. And that is at least my best case scenario for that interesting thing. I mean, of course, like I said, I'm just speculating, but it's kind of interesting to think about.
I don't think you are speculating. That is spot on. And there is so many real life things that are point to it. So we were on your show, and I got all excited because we was the same age, but 1987 was this grand cosmic convergence where they sent down apparently a ton of extra star seeds, which my astrological charts and my human design says that. So I don't just have to go, oh, I'm a star seed. My astrology straight up points to it. Everything about it is teach spirituality, embody spirituality, spiritual, and all these different avenues. So it's, yes, they're sending more and more of us down, but then there's some of us, and it's almost like its own little hierarchy, but the proper ones will never say, like, there was, I don't want to name names because I don't want to call her out because some people love her.
No worries.
Oh, yeah. But there is certain spiritual teachers that you get in, and they have, let's just say they're the type that have memberships and you're their member, and they teach special stuff to their members only.
I know what you're talking. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And and anytime they're like, don't listen to any other teacher, only listen to me. And for a little bit there, I bought into it because I was like, I was in such a, what do I believe? Because I knew so much. I knew too much almost. Like, and I was like, where do I focus? And this is before I was just like, nope, Christ, it is Christ, you know? So I got in, and then so many things. So anybody, if you were listening and a teacher tells you to only listen to them, run away, never.
I co-sign that.
Yeah, run away. That is the sign right there of a charlatan. And the thing is this is where the Galactic Federation, and even then I was like, that sounds like fourth dimensional consciousness, but okay, I promised to buy in. And I bought in for a few months and I left, never going to do that again. That was a few years ago, but it's like, those people could have been like us, and they could have been Christ consciousness helping the world, but they got too big for their britches probably too soon. And honestly, they were Gen Xers, the kind of people that do this. Just saying, ageist a little bit here, but they're not. I haven't seen a millennial doing that. And like Matthias DeStefano was funny because he does say, because people have called him the Messiah, and he says Messiah means messenger. So if you want to call me a messenger, sure. And he's not a YouTube teacher. He's on YouTube because he was in Egypt for a year, and he was told by the divine, and he went to the actual pyramids every day and meditated, and then would come back and tell us what it told us to tell us. And then Gaia had them on to do his own program, but they approached him like, the only thing he was actually doing was traveling the world to unite the network of our own Kundalini of the earth. And he was doing that all over the place for years since he was a child. Like he's also in 87. So since he straight out of high school, he tried going to university, but the divine made him very sick because they wanted him to go do this, which I know I've been made very sick when I tried to be an ECE teacher for a minute, and I was pumped with sickness. It was nuts. So I get it. And like that push. And there is tons of us, and there's some that are ahead of us. And like, it's funny because even Sarah, like, you knew Sarah when she was early, yet here she goes. She's still going. You know what I mean? Like, meanwhile, we've all probably been doing it at the same time. Did she tell you how old she is? I want to know how old she is.
No, she did not. From what I remember during the interview, she did not tell me. However, I'm a pretty good. I'd say I'm pretty good. She's got to be somewhere around us. So she's got to be. Too. She's got to be somewhere around us. And touching on what you were saying, I absolutely can't stand that aspect of some people when they do that, because what they're doing is they're placing a limiter on you for their own personal gain. And that's why I'm in this camp. Everything already exists within you. You just got to learn how to cultivate it. That's pretty much it. I mean, even with Kundalini yoga, there's two different camps. There's people who think that you have to awaken the Kundalini energy. And then there's a camp that says the Kundalini energy is already within you. You just need to learn to get to know it. You just need to learn how to cultivate it. And you need to learn how to harness it. And one thing I see a lot, especially from that person in particular, but other people as well, is that if you're not doing this certain way, or this, and this, you're doing it wrong. or, you have to get my guidance. And I'm, excuse my language, that's a crock of shit, because
Mm-hmm.
it really is, because what they're doing is they're taking advantage of people who have not yet completely come into their own power and the understanding of their own power. And I'm not going to lie, shoot, when I first started my spiritual spiral, I almost got caught in the new age trap. I almost did. We all
Part
kind
of
of,
the learning. Yeah, it's like being
yeah.
in high school. It's awkward, you make social mistakes. It's the same thing in awakening.
Exactly. And you get caught up in the whole new age thing eventually, and then a lot of the ones who are true to it will find their way out of it, and they'll find their true path. But no, I absolutely can't stand that. Of course, like I don't have anything bad to say about these individuals. It's just, it's doing people a disservice. It is. And it's one thing to coach and to help somebody and to, give them information or give them, some recommendations, but to say you absolutely have to do it this way, or you absolutely have to do it with me, and you have to pay me to do it, or you're not doing it the right way, that to me is yeah, charlatan. so
Oh
so I
yeah.
agree with you on that.
Yeah, 100%. And the saying, like, that's actually when I said I shut down my show. That was why, because I was listening to her, and I didn't shut it, but I stopped filming because she made me feel guilty, like I was not doing the right thing, and I was, and I know, but it was actually good because it put me in my own personal power. I haven't even thought about handing my power off to somebody since. It's just like I'm not a leader person, although my astrology says I am. So nature versus nurture, man. Your nurture is your raising, and your nature is your astrology. So my astrology says I am a leader. So it's like breaking through those blocks that you have within yourself to be like, nope, I just need to be my own authority. And this is like what I really try to get through to people in my teaching, because I know what it's like to be weak. Some people are born, like I said in one of my episodes recently, that Aaron Apke guy. Do you know him?
I've heard of him. I haven't seen
Huge,
any of his stuff though.
enormous. And he's got a paid membership monthly that's $200 a month. Because I once upon a time wanted to jump on his bandwagon, because he teaches only Christ consciousness too, which is what I seek. And he's cool-ish. He doesn't teach anything wrong. He teaches the Course in Miracles, but the man is like an Adonis, like full of muscles, 6'3", talks with a deep voice, like, so instantly, not to be whatever, but you're the embodiment of a leader. So like you're going to walk on there and everyone's going to be like, tell us what to do, master, where there's some people that are like little girls that can't talk straight, and like you still have to find that place within you no matter who you are, and getting that through to people, like what I was doing in life coaching. But then they want to go, oh, but you don't understand, I'm just so weak. And it's like, no, I probably do. Like, you have no idea how much I was such a crybaby. Like, you can overcome anything, any form of personal weakness, and it's just getting that through to people. That's the mission. What have you found? And I know I already asked this in regards to like Christ consciousness, but would you tell people that they should focus on one religion? Would you name a religion, or would you not?
So I wouldn't tell anybody to focus on just one. And the reason why I say that is this. I kind of touching back to what was first talked about at the beginning, how we're doing these old rituals, and we have to get this new thing going. We have to find out what works for us in these times. So one thing I'm a huge believer in is a lot of the religions and the spiritualities are just guidelines. They're guidelines. And what I mean by guidelines is they give you a guide. I'd say in some cases a very vague and brief guide, but some get a little bit more in depth when it comes to that stuff, of the nature of this existence, how to live a good life, how to take care of oneself, take care of your loved ones, and things like that. And how to deal with certain things. So they're just guidelines. And like certain people, because of their families or other influences, they tend to gravitate towards one particular guideline. And to me, that's kind of that's their safe zone. like because their family is fond of this guideline, or their friends are fond of this guideline, and they want to feel accepted in that format. That's why they will gravitate towards that singular or solo guideline. I mean, if you really want my perspective on it, I mean, if you really want to break it down, I'm technically kind of an omnist. I mean, if you really want to put it that way, I do believe that no absolute truth is found in any guideline, but the bits of truth are found in every guideline. And the one thing I would completely recommend people do is do not marry yourself to one single guideline. Do not explore around. You know what I mean? Check out different things. Like, I mean, I've just gone over Jainism again. Like, I haven't really touched on Jainism in a while, and I've been just kind of
Be
reading
careful
up
where you
on it.
walk.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. But this is what I mean. I think we can all learn from every single guideline, and I really think the true spiritual doctrine is the one you create yourself. And I've always used this term, words fall short for what's really going on here. The human language starts to break down when we kind of look at the over encompassing view of everything. And that's why I kind of call it the guidelines, because they're taking what they could and what they could form into words based on what they were experiencing. And I know for all of you who have been in a heightened state or an entheogenic state of consciousness, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this. And they were taking what they could describe and what they could bring into words and putting it down. So I mean, and there's also the polarity to that aspect, that there is no correct religion or spirituality on this planet, because everything is essentially trying to lead you astray. They don't want you to ascend past and to get to the next human state or to human totality. So that's why I tell people, look at everything, read up on everything. I've gone through probably every single religion and spirituality twice in the past like 17 years, because I even did a show on Taoism just at the beginning of the year too, and things like that. I mean, there's so much to learn, there's so much to take in, and you might find that what you were talking about before on how Sarah was like Catholic and Muslim. I came from both sides of the schism. My mom's side of the family is Roman Catholic, my dad's side of the family is Greek Orthodox. Okay, like, yeah, I was literally, I was born into that, and I just remember like thinking, as I'm younger, I'm like, this can't be what it is. Like, this can't be. It's too black and white. And then for a little bit I was kind of borderline agnostic. I believe there was a God that existed, but I believe the religions had it wrong. Like, all of the current religions had it wrong. And then, when I had my awakening in 2008, I started to find things like Gnosticism, Hermeticism, Buddhism, Taoism, things like that, Jainism, all of these different types of spiritualities that made more sense to me. And I feel a lot of people will stick with that one guideline, but they'll like hold one hand on that guideline while they kind of skim through the pages of the other guidelines, because that's their comfort zone. But the best thing I can tell you guys is break free from your comfort zone. You never know what you're going to find. You never know what stone you're going to turn over and what kind of message or revelation is waiting for you. So I'm with you. I don't think we should just hone in on any single one.
Oh, absolutely. It's the key to like finding. I think we're going to head to a place where people like us, and this is, we're going to sound really creepy, but people like us might be the ones that are going to make the new religion, if that makes sense. The ones that, not that I'm going to be a boss and don't listen to me, but this is why I became a minister. Is to be the person, because one day, I mean, I'm doing it now, but one day I do plan to speak with true authority and be like, I know this is what we need to do. And like, there's certain things like, I know it's Christ consciousness, but then I want to know what the next step is, because there is a huge satanic push right now happening with the movie stars and all their shows that they're doing right now. So my next question to you will be, what do you think? Obviously, shut it off. But should we be doing anything further to push against the Satanism that is blatantly coming out of Hollywood and the movies or the music industry right now? Like, overtly, obviously, like if you're still denying it, that's the pure atheism right there. Because the only way you'd be okay with that, you couldn't even be agnostic. You'd have to be pure atheism, which, by the way, if you know anybody that's an atheist, people, they're Satanists. They just don't realize it. Like I was one of them. So I say this knowing I was one of them. You are a Satanist and they're all Satanists. And I'm not saying, oh, let's burn the witch. But at the same time, do we have a responsibility to try to stop it? Like we're sitting here watching. I don't want to be like a Christian, like, oh, burn them, but like something should be done, I feel like.
So the best thing in my opinion that we can do about this is to just have awareness of it. And what I mean awareness of it is for, for the content that we take in, that we digest and that we consciously view. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's, you're not going to be able to avoid all of it, but it's having that awareness of what it is and not having attachment to it. That's the best defense in my eyes that we can have at this point in time. Anything that we do to force a hand in this at this point in time, from what I've seen, is going to ultimately slap back at us. And that's why, when it comes to things, I was talking with somebody about this the other day, like, they have family issues they're going through and they want to go and they want to like just ring and be Paul Revere and, just let everybody know what's going on. But you're forcing the hand at that point, and the universe will slap you if you try to force its hand. It will definitely do that to you. I've experienced that firsthand from when I've tried to force hand on things. So, I mean, the number one thing we can do is have discernment and understand and have awareness of that is what's going on. These people are, and I mean, talk about somebody, since it's way more blatant than it used to be. Way, way, way back in 2008 to like 2012. And I mean, even into the later 20 teens, like they were still being very subtle about it. Like you could see it if you knew what you were looking for. But you had to really kind of look for what was going on. Now they're just leaving it wide open. Like they don't even care anymore. And that's why I think they troll us. I honestly think that they troll us a little bit with this kind of stuff because of number one, these people, kind of talking back into the atheist thing you were talking about. These people love something called plausible deniability. They live in plausible deniability. And in case what a lot of people haven't heard of that, it's doing something or being part of an event or orchestrating something or being a part of something, but the way it's set up, it can easily be denied that you had anything to do with it. So when you look at these Hollywood actors, these music artists and things like that, with a lot of the satanic stuff in their videos, I mean, the best thing I could say is just find different content to intake. I mean, I can't tell you, ever since my awakening, there's certain music I can't listen to anymore. I just can't, because I know that what this music is portraying and the message that it's portraying. And I mean, the best thing to do is to clean your content, dude. Only take in the good stuff, the stuff that's going to help better you, that's going to help benefit you, that's going to help you grow on your spiritual spiral. I mean, and that's really what we can do at this point in time. I do think eventually, at some point, when enough people begin to realize what's going on, that's when we can kind of go a little bit further than just having the discernment and then having, picking and choosing the content that we choose to intake. When that happens, then yes, we can. There's potentially something we can do to stop this from happening as a collective. As of right now, though, because of the plausible deniability and the way it's set up, if we were all to march in and try to stop them doing like, for instance, like if a whole bunch of people showed up and tried to stop a satanic ritual at the Super Bowl, they would put those people on a pedestal and start to ridicule them and make us look even worse. That's
True.
that's their methods. Okay. Like they want us to do things like that, because then they have an even easier time discrediting us and making us look crazy when we do things like that. So that would be my piece of advice. I mean, I couldn't even, so I don't know, Adventure Time even. Like I have my friends up in Brighton, their kids, they're like my niece and nephew and all that, but they were watching Adventure Time, and they had the Kabbalistic freaking tree of life right on the freaking floor of the dog's parents' house, and all these different symbols. And I'm like looking at this and I'm like, this is a kid's show. And I was like, this is a kid's show. And they have this kind of stuff that they're showcasing, this kind of symbolism and stuff that they're showcasing in this kid's show. So, I mean, that's the best you can do, even as a parent, in my opinion. I'm not a parent, but just to make sure, your the content that your kids are intaking is good for them, like, and good for their development and their growth. And I mean, that's all at this point we can honestly really do without making ourselves look like fools. And because that's the last thing we want to do, because we want to be seen as credible. We want to be seen as people who have our heads on straight while we talk about this stuff. And to act in a, what I would say, revolutionary or malicious manner towards any of this stuff is only going to set us back further at this point in time. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. Don't you worry. The time for pitchforks and torches will come eventually. There just has to be enough of the collective on board in order for that to happen in a way that's not going to make us look even worse. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, and that brings me to my next point, and I think you just answered it right there. And that's how I kind of see it too. So we talk about the splits, and even Sarah just did something with after school where she talks about the splits. And she said in her live that she does think there's variations, but she just want to keep it simple for the video. And that the split is happening, and you see it with people and personalities. But then, and this goes back into those old teachers, which kind of show like, oh, really? You're so sure that a bubble was going to encapsulate us and we would descend and the rest would perish. And they're going to a 3D world, but it won't be Earth because the Earth is ascending. And I do feel that the Earth is ascending to 5D, that I know. But what happens with the people that don't want to? I think they're going to be forced to. And I've seen my own people leave the Earth because they are so unwilling to evolve with the Earth. And then I'm watching the ones that are unwilling to start upgrading also start getting crazier or get on the boat. Like I said this in my show a couple days ago, but my brother, all my siblings are atheists too. My brother is, and he was still in his 20s. So he was a heavy drinker. So it wasn't exactly a drinking problem yet in your 20s, but let's just say I was starting to get worried. But he goes to a concert dressed as Jesus because it was like just the concert was a dress up concert or something. He thinks it's hilarious because he's a rocker and his hair's all long. But a few days later, he quit drinking forever. You think there's a correlation there? Like Jesus, and I felt Jesus reached down to me when I was an atheist. So I know that that's possible. So that's how I see it happening. He's just going to keep coming, scooping people up and waking us all up into our divine consciousness. And people like us are going to keep spreading the word and making that easier. And then people like Sarah and Matthias are going to get huger. And then there'll be more of those coming out and it'll just keep growing. Like you say, that spiral, right? And that's going to get bigger. And unfortunately, the people that don't want to move up are probably going to die. Like, I don't mean to say that like I want that to happen, but the earth, like this is why COVID, and I don't want to say it's a blessing. It's not like I want this, but COVID keeps taking out all these people, or they keep doing things that's taking them off the planet. They keep getting more and more and more, even though they're warned that they're dangerous, but they're believing the lie. Like there's all these different things that are taking them away. So that's how I see it happening. Not that I want it, but it's how it seems. Like, what do you think? Or do you think it's going to be a dramatic lightning strike and we're separated?
So this is kind of what I think, and this is what I've kind of seen over my observations. Is I agree with you. There's some people who are not ready. And when I say not ready, I say not consciously or subconsciously. And that's going to kind of play into what I'm saying a little bit after this. So the people who are not ready, I do agree. I think that they will be taken off here and they will go finish their existence somewhere else. But there's a lot of people who are not consciously there, but they're subconsciously there right now. And what I mean by that is they have the feelings and they're having these experiences, and they're having, and a lot of these people who are subconsciously there but not fully consciously there, they have the thoughts. They have these, a lot of people might call that a silent majority. I don't know if that's really a good way to put it, but there's a lot of people who are subconsciously ready. So I think what's going to happen is the people who are not both consciously and subconsciously ready, they're going to go have their existence elsewhere. The people who are subconsciously ready are going to get pushed in with us, and people like us are going to have to be the stewards to those people, because while they have not been consciously ready, their soul, their subconscious, their being themselves is ready. They might have signed up for the mass unveiling, and that is their time, you know what I mean, to have the realizations. But I do think there's a large group of people who are subconsciously there but not consciously there just quite yet. They haven't had the exact thing or piece of information or revealing come to them that will bring them into their full conscious awakening yet. So I think what's going to end up happening is there's going to be, for those people, they're going to turn around and it's all going to be done. The decommissioning, the transition of everything is all going to be done. People like you and I who are in the conscious aspect of this awakening, we're going to see it. We're going to watch the decommissioning. We're going to see it go piece by piece by piece by piece. And then we're going to watch the new come in and transition. And all of the people who are subconscious are not going to realize it till the last minute. And they're going to turn around and they're going to be like, what the hell? And they're going to be like, holy shit. And we're going to have to come over and be like, look, okay, like, you're here for a reason. This is what's going on, and we're going to have to be stewards to those individuals and to kind of help them through this process. And I know I get where you're coming from, and the whole thing with COVID and the pinprick, the masks, and things like that. There's a lot of different theories going on about that, on how that was meant for the people who were not ready. The people who were not ready are the ones who willingly took it and who had the issues and ended up passing away. There's also that the reason why the masks were such a big thing is that non-human entities were starting to blend in with us at that time a little bit more than they have been. And that's why the masks were such a big thing and they were mandated. And it kind of makes you think about the people who are still wearing them even to this day. That little theory right there kind of just, raises my eyebrows just a tad. Or also that the vaccine was meant to kill these non-human things too. There's a whole bunch of different theories about it. None that I can really concretely say is actual, but it is kind of interesting when you look at the people who did choose to go get the pinprick willingly and get the boosters afterwards, that they were definitely not ready. You can see the kind of person who does that. And of course, I know there's a lot of people who had their hand forced in getting them. And I mean, that's kind of a touchy subject for a lot of people too. But honestly, I think that's what's eventually going to happen. I think it's not going to be a very quick ascension. And that's why I call it the slow decommissioning process, because whoever or whatever's hands this is all in has the whole collective of humanity in mind, not just people like you and I. And that's why they are very slowly but surely pulling the 4-foot splinter out. It's like literally a millimeter at a time. Sometimes it feels like to me, but I kind of agree with you on your sentiments there. I digress. I do think that a scenario like that could very well likely occur.
Yeah, I think it already is. Like, so you don't think it's gonna be something dramatic and the heaven rips open and we disintegrate up or they disintegrate out and everybody keeps talking about that. I've never bought that. I've never seen it. I've tried to buy it too. I've tried to, like, maybe the way consciousness works, maybe the ones that can buy it do get that way. They do get to bubble out of this existence because they could truly embody it and buy it. I am too, like, skeptical, analytical. Like, I am think to a dangerous degree, which, like, I'll get, like, freeze up in thoughts because there's so much going on in the universe right now. It's literally infinite. So it's like we kind of have to choose. And I feel like, and I'm watching this happen in my own manifestations, and this is what I would teach my clients, is that you can only manifest what you truly can believe. So if you are a sad, sad person and you want a better life, you need to start truly believing and seeing that, so that you can ascend up. This is like fixing the self and the personality and the wounds, is so you can ascend, is so you can level up with us, like into the higher realms of what that's going to look like. And then we'll have our own brain chip issues to deal with later. Like, I think that's like the next stage of what's going to happen. I think everybody has to wake up to like a base level, like you were saying, even the subconscious people. And that's what I've always thought, like a certain amount of us, there's a word for it. When you get enough people, then the rest just follow. There's a word, and the rest will just come. And that's
Majority rules. I mean, even on an energetic level, yeah, no. In morphogenic fields are a real thing. Like, I mean, they're heavily studied, and I mean, they do exist. This is not just, I mean, some people might think it's woo woo, but it's not. I mean, I can literally pull up like 3 NIH articles on morphogenic fields
You
and
mean like
3
the Matrix,
studies.
right? Like
Yeah.
matrices?
So
Yeah.
what are more, did you ever hear about the 100th monkey effect? And what I mean
Yes.
by the
Oh, yeah, I know all
100.
about that. They've done it with birds and stuff too. Oh, yeah,
Yep.
they've done those studies with lots of things. That is more than proven. People that wanted to, and they even did it with humans. I think they aired something in England and told everyone the answers on TV. And then the people that did it in Australia all got better marks. So they've even done it with humans. Like I've heard the monkey
Absolutely.
thing and with the bananas too, right? Like
It
that's
was
that
it
one.
was this sweet potato. So there was one group of monkeys where the babies, they're the younger monkeys. What they learned how to do was they would wash their sweet potatoes off in the stream, so
Oh, yeah.
they didn't have to eat dirty sweet potatoes. And what was funny is a lot of the adult monkeys ended up following through. But what was crazy is you had another island that was so many thousand miles away, where the monkeys then all of a sudden started washing their sweet potatoes without any kind of prior influence from any other monkey. So that's where the whole concept of morphogenic fields and a field that I would even call it a collective unconsciousness maybe of that species that can permeate through each of those species and can relay that information. And I do think that I do agree with you, because it's stated that if one person in this entire collective of humans that we have right now on the planet were to reach totality, for guys who haven't heard that before, I choose the term totality over enlightenment and ascension. I think it just makes a lot more sense, and it's not like a weird title that kind of can make you seem like you're in a place someone's not or better than anybody else. But I use totality. So if one human reaches that it will cause such a ripple effect in the collective that a lot of other people are going to start reaching totality. So I'm with you on that. I do think that once enough of us get into what I would call the conscious awakening state, reality is going to follow suit. And I already believe that what will happen is that this reality is going to glitch at that point. Things are going to start to get kind of interesting, because if panpsychism really is a thing, and you have all of these people elevating in consciousness and making these realizations, that's ultimately going to have an effect on the physical reality itself. So I think what could happen on why that little minority will follow with us, because the majority has already reached this point, reality is going to start to showcase that. And that little minority right there, they're going to be like, holy crap, what's going on right now? And we need to go with these people because they seem to know what's going on. And that's kind of what I foresee happening. I foresee that reality itself will begin to glitch and will begin to change the more that we reach these revelations within us as a collective. And that's going to be an interesting day, and I'm looking forward to that day, because I'm gonna kick back and watch it go down and just enjoy what I'm seeing at that point. But that's where I do agree with you on that. I think because it's going to get kind of funny for those people on the minority side, they're ultimately going to band with us because we understand what's happening.
Oh, yeah, For sure. And I would love for something dramatic to happen. Like I see, and I don't know if it's wishful thinking, but like Avatar Islands in the sky, like that's the kind of thing I see unveiling itself. Whether that's in our lifetime, I don't know. He's happy if you can hear that.
It's all right. Don't worry.
Dramatically playing with toys. But I see like very like Earth itself like becoming more crystallized, like how the like this is why I can't do flat Earth, because I believe in inner Earth, like the inner Earth and the crystalline structures inside Earth, like the earthquakes they say that are going to happen, and there's so many doomsdayers. I'm like, yay! Like I don't want anyone to die, but like if the Earth was to rip open and those crystal structures were to come up, like I see mountains of crystals, I see Avatar Islands in the sky. Like I don't know if it's our lifetime, but I see it for Earth. And right now, like our own taste of proof of this is, do you remember the colors coral and teal and all that stuff? Ever seeing them in the past? And there's people that even say like they pretty sure humans only saw like red, black, and white like thousands of years ago. So you can literally see we have progressed into more colors, because I think what that means is progression into more chakra activations, more chakra utilizations. Like they're always there. It's just our energy body advances enough to be able to use them, and when that happens, now we have extra colors. Now we can see more. Flowers are better. Like the beauty of the earth enriches. And I would love to see like global warming. Yeah, you mean like we're all turning back into a rainforest, because the rainforest is a more magical way for us to exist. You know what I mean? Like that's a good thing for, it's not the polar bears. I'm sorry, polar bears. Well, guess what? A polar bear will eat you like that. And I'm not like boo polar bears, but it's like that's just one thing that's part of the progression of Earth. But like, do you think the Earth wants to be half frozen? She's alive too. Like we need to always remember that. She is waking up too. Oh, that's my alarm. We need to start wrapping up. So I want to ask you one more question. Let me check, because I wrote down all my questions. So we got
Absolutely, yeah.
didn't end up saying much. I wanted to ask you about human design. Do you know about human design?
So I'm not a professional in it. I do have mine done.
What are
I
you?
honestly so I am a let me see if I can pull it up, because I'm definitely a martyr role. I
A
have
martyr?
balance. I'm a
You're a
martyr
martyr?
role.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I'm a martyr role. So let me see if I can pull it up real quick. But I know that from what somebody told me who's an expert in it, I have really good balance between my hemispheres, and I was born that way.
Yeah,
Which
I can see that. Yeah, I was gonna guess like manifesting generator probably, or
so I'm a
generator.
manifester. I'm a straight
Yeah.
manifester. So that's definitely, and I'm a martyr role. I let me see if I can pull it up.
Do you
If
see the
not,
martyr role as a bad thing? Because
no, and see that's the thing. When I was doing the research on it, martyr role doesn't mean you're going to be a martyr,
I
but what
used to
it
be. That's how my personality used to be. So that's funny.
but potentially what it means is that after you pass from here, or your time is done here, that your work and everything that you've done is going to surface to a higher degree than it
My
was while you
astrology
were
says that.
alive. Yep, while you were alive, and people will, look. It's not that you're being a martyr per se, but because while you were alive, you did all this work. When you pass from this existence, all of that work you did is going to be even more
I heard,
surface
yeah,
than it
I'll be
was.
famous when I die. So that's funny to think of us both. So one day in a couple hundred years, hundreds and thousands of people will be watching us when we're dead.
I hope I incarnate at that time, and I can at least, if I choose to come back here, I might even just pop in for a visit, and that'd be funny. I'd look down and just see my face in these books, and I'd be like, I'd
Yeah,
be like, this is interesting. But I mean, I think human design is a little bit more on point than how astrology can be at
it's well
certain
because
things.
it's got Kabbalah, I Ching, and obviously astrology itself, and one other powerhouse I'm missing. The Vedas, and it takes them all and overlays them on the hexagrams. Because I don't know if you're into the I Ching, but the I Ching, I mean, tarot is cute, and I don't know if I like being original, but like I've never bothered with the tarot. I learned it, and I was like, meh. And then when I found the I Ching, I was like, bam, that's the one. It's just so much deeper. And it sounds snooty to think that, I know, but like, it just, I feel smarter. Like
No,
when I
I'm
study
with
the
you.
I Ching versus tarot, like I just love the confidence in it. And I mean, Carl Jung, I mean, if Carl Jung's involved, I'm there. So I was
Absolutely, I'm with
like,
you on that.
oh yeah. And that's just, and I find it more grounded and a more way, like I was saying, how like we'll be the creators of the new what there's going to be. The I Ching will deeply be involved, and things like human design, like know thyself. That is knowing thyself.
Absolutely, and I honestly feel, even with human design, I mean, and tarot, runes, I Ching, and all that. I mean, they're tools. So they're tools that you can use to get yourself a broader perspective of your subconscious and who you are. Um, and even if like you, let's say for instance you find something very fascinating about yourself, using these methods. I mean, through humans, like I said, I didn't even know, and then I had one person look at my chart and be like, you have a really good balance between your hemispheres of your brain. And I was like, I didn't know that. And I mean, I've always been very, it's funny because I've always had a balance of logic and creativity my whole life. I've always had that balance. I've always been able to kind of see it from both ends of the spectrum. I've never been really caught in my left brain completely or caught in my right brain completely or anything like that. So I mean, they're tools. They're tools you can use to help get a better subjective understanding of yourself, your inner workings, how you function, in this human avatar that you're currently in right now. I'm a big believer in as above, so below, as within, so without. I mean, the correlations in the heavens will have energetic effects on our being and who we are. The thing I will say though, because this meme has been going around a little bit, and I do kind of laugh at it. It's this person that they're handing somebody a zodiac wheel, and the guy goes, "No thanks, I'll take responsibility for my own shitty behavior." But see, I kind of agree with that a little bit. Well, yes, I believe in as above, so below. At the same time, you have to have the awareness of the fact that that's happening, and you have to have awareness that this particular energy is going to make you potentially act a certain way or feel a certain way, and you have to act accordingly. I mean, that's part of being a sovereign being, and to taking back your power is you're not going to subject yourself as an energetic slave to the planetary energies. You're not you don't do that. You understand that, okay, these planetary energies are coming in. This is what it normally does to me. So I have to take precautions in this week to know that, hey, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not getting myself into anything that's complicated. I mean, I'm kind of that way with the solar storms. So certain solar storms will just completely tank me. Like, you know what I mean? And just on an energetic level, I'm a Taurus. I mean, anything that happens with the earth, I personally feel. I reciprocate that energy. And but so I know those days when we're having solar storms, I take it easy that day. I don't really do anything too complicated. I don't do anything too stressful. I don't do anything like that, because I know how this stuff affects me, and I know that I am not mentally sound or mentally fit enough at that time to handle these kind of situations. So I mean, I digress. Like I said, it's a great tool. I think it's human design is a fantastic tool to learn about yourself, to understand your own inner workings and your own inner makeup. Because the more you understand about yourself, the more you can master your reality, and that's why I think it's a really cool thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's a good place for us to wrap it up. There is that you need to be your own reality generator. So we're going to close off here together, and then I'll say goodbye to you after. But I want to let you finish off. Say an ending statement to the crowd of whatever you think is the most vital thing to leave them with, and where they can find you at.
The best thing I can say to everybody is your chains, your shackles were never locked. Your cell door was not locked either. You were only led to believe it was. Um, be a sovereign human being. guys. Do the inner work. Work on yourself. Explore. Be your authentic self at all times, no holds barred. The best thing I could leave with everybody here today is that each and every one of you has the capability to be the hero of your own story, to be the one who brings yourselves to a salvation, the ones that bring yourself to that heightened level. You have everything you need already within you, and you truly do. And I know it because I experience it, and you're a human just like me. And I know that you have it in you to do that. And I want all of you to know that each and every one of you is special. You have something amazing to bring to the table. Don't ever negate that or underestimate yourself as a person. And the spiritual spiral is a spiral, guys. It never ends. I mean, this is an ongoing. You're a constant growing. You're a constant evolution. And I mean, where we're at right now is just a stop on the way to back to that totality, to our true divine nature. So the best thing I can say to all of you is just keep being sovereign, discerning, compassionate, loving, kind, understanding human beings, because that's what we need right now. Guys, I'm available. So I am part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. You guys can find the everything on the Forbidden Knowledge Network at forbiddenknowledge.news. That's the actual site. I would encourage you guys to definitely check out Chris Matthews' documentary, Forbidden Occult Louisiana. I would highly suggest you guys check out Ryder Lee's JFKX. It's available on Amazon. You can find all those links at the bottom of my videos on the Rumble channel. And guys, you can find me at Rumble, user BGcast. You can find me on every single podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Rockfin, Spreaker, Buzzsprouts. You can find my stuff there. I'm available on all social media too, guys. I'm on X as BGcast. I'm on Facebook as BGcast. I'm on IG as Instagram as BGcast. I'm pretty easy to find. And I would love for you guys to come check me out and to learn with me, because that's what we're going to be doing later tonight. We're going to be diving into the pre-Nicene rabbit hole yet again to kind of iron out some extra things. So, and I want to thank you for having me on as well. I really appreciate this. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely. And thank you for ripping off the Band-Aid on me having guests myself, which I've wanted to do for a while, and it's been good. So definitely we should do this again sometime. Thank you everybody for tuning in to Transcending Ascension. I recommend checking out BJcast because definitely it's a unique way of thinking, because even in the spiritual world, people get dogmatic, and it's nice to find people that never do. So thank you for tuning into Transcending Ascension. Talk to you later.